Hello, this is Cash Mirage, the $1 million mansion scam. Have you ever walked past a house so beautiful it made your heart skip a beat? Well, Margaret Whitmore didn't just walk past it, she sold it 3 times to 3 different families for $3 million each. The only tiny problem? It wasn't hers. But let me start from the beginning because this story will blow your mind in ways you never expected. Margaret was 42, recently divorced, and completely broke. Her ex-husband had cleaned out their bank accounts, taken the car, and left her with nothing but debt and a broken spirit. She was living in a cramped studio apartment above a nail salon, listening to the constant buzz of hair dryers through paper-thin walls. Every morning, she would walk through Millionaire's Row, the most exclusive neighborhood in the city, just to feel what wealth looked like. And that's when she saw it. 1247 Cypress Manor. A Gothic revival mansion with towering spires, stained glass windows, and gardens that looked like they belonged in a fairy tale. The house had been empty for months. The owner, an elderly oil tycoon named Harold Pemberton, had moved to Switzerland for medical treatment. The place just sat there, perfect and abandoned, like a sleeping princess waiting for someone brave enough to claim her. Margaret learned everything about that house. She studied the architectural details, memorized the garden layout, even found old real estate listings from when Pemberton first bought it 20 years ago. She became obsessed. This house consumed her thoughts, her dreams, her every waking moment. Then one rainy Tuesday, something clicked in her desperate brain, a thought so audacious, so completely insane, that it just might work. She was going to sell Harold Pemberton's house. The first step was creating her persona. Margaret Whitmore became Margaret Pemberton Hayes, Harold's niece and heir. She bought an expensive suit from a consignment shop, got her hair done at the fanciest salon she could afford, and practiced her story in the mirror until she believed it herself. "Uncle Harold is in declining health," she would say, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "He's asked me to handle the sale quietly without the circus of a public listing. He values his privacy, you understand." Her first victim was the Rodriguez family. Carlos Rodriguez was a successful surgeon who had been looking for his dream home for over 2 years. When Margaret called him directly, claiming to have heard through mutual friends that he was house hunting, he was intrigued. "I have something very special," she told him over the phone, her voice dripping with mystery. "But it's not officially on the market. Are you interested in an exclusive viewing?" The next day, Margaret met Carlos and his wife Elena at the front gates of 1247 Cypress Manor. She had spent hours researching how to pick locks, and somehow, miraculously, she had managed to get inside the day before to hide a spare key. "Welcome to Cypress Manor," she said, opening the massive oak doors with theatrical flair. The Rodriguez family was speechless. The house was even more stunning inside than out. Crystal chandeliers hung from coffered ceilings, marble staircases curved like something from a movie set, and every room was decorated with antiques that probably cost more than most people's cars. "The asking price is $3 million, Margaret said casually, as if she was discussing the weather. "Uncle Harold is motivated to sell quickly due to his situation." Carlos and Elena exchanged glances. They had budgeted for $2.5 million, but this house was worth at least $5 million. They made an offer on the spot. Margaret played it perfectly. She hesitated, made some phone calls to Uncle Harold's doctors, and finally agreed to accept their offer if they could close within 2 weeks and pay in cash. Uncle Harold needs the funds immediately for his treatment, she explained, looking appropriately distressed. 2 weeks later, Carlos handed over a cashier's check for $3 million. Margaret signed all the papers with practiced elegance, using forged documents she had painstakingly created. She even cried a little when handing over the keys. Uncle Harold would have loved knowing this house went to such a wonderful family, she whispered. The Rodriguez family was planning to move in the following month after their current house sold. They had no idea they had just been robbed by a master manipulator. But Margaret was just getting started. Her second mark was Jennifer Morrison, a tech entrepreneur who had just sold her startup for $50 million. Jennifer was young, ambitious, and looking for a statement property that would reflect her success. Margaret approached her at a charity gala where she had bought a single ticket using money from the Rodriguez scam. I couldn't help but overhear you mentioning your house hunt, Margaret said smoothly, sipping champagne and playing the part of old money perfectly. I might have something that would interest you, something that's not available to the general public. Jennifer's eyes lit up. Exclusive opportunities were her weakness. 3 days later, Margaret was giving Jennifer the same tour of 1247 Cypress Manor, spinning the same story about Uncle Harold's declining health and need for discretion. The previous buyer fell through, Margaret lied effortlessly. Family tragedy, very sad, but it means this gem is available again. Jennifer was even easier than the Rodriguez family. She saw the house as an investment and a status symbol. She didn't even negotiate the price. $3 million cash, 2-week close, she asked. Done. Margaret barely managed to contain her excitement. $6 million in 3 weeks, and she was just getting warmed up. The third victim was the most challenging. Robert Chen was a real estate attorney who had made his fortune buying and flipping luxury properties. He was suspicious by nature and asked more questions than the previous buyers. But Margaret had learned from her success. She created an elaborate backstory about Uncle Harold being in a Swiss clinic for experimental cancer treatment, family disputes over the inheritance, and her urgent need to liquidate assets to pay for medical bills. I'm not supposed to be selling this house, she confided to Robert during their private showing. Uncle Harold's other relatives would be furious if they knew, but he specifically asked me to find a buyer who would love and care for Cypress Manor the way he has. Robert fell for the story completely. The idea that he was getting access to a secret deal appealed to his ego. He paid $3 million without even having the property properly inspected. By this point, Margaret had $9 million in various bank accounts. She was living in a luxury hotel suite, driving a leased Ferrari, and shopping at stores where she used to window shop longingly. But success made her careless. She started spending money too freely, too visibly. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, 5-star restaurants every night. She bought a penthouse apartment and furnished it with art that cost more than most people's houses. Meanwhile, the Rodriguez family had finished selling their old house and were ready to move into Cypress Manor. They showed up with a moving truck, only to find Jennifer Morrison already there, painting the living room and installing a home theater system. "Excuse me," Carlos said politely. But I think there's been some mistake. This is our house. Jennifer laughed. Your house? I bought this place 3 weeks ago. I have the deed right here. Both families called their lawyers. Both families had legitimate-looking paperwork. Both families had proof of payment to Margaret Pemberton Hayes. Within hours, Robert Chen arrived at the house with his own set of keys and his own moving truck. The police were called. The FBI got involved. Reporters started camping outside Cypress Manor, turning Margaret's perfect scam into a media circus. But Margaret was already gone. She had seen the writing on the wall when the second buyer mentioned having a home inspection scheduled. She liquidated her assets, bought a one-way ticket to a non-extradition country, and disappeared into the sunset with $8.5 million. The three families were left fighting over a house that none of them legally owned. Harold Pemberton, when finally contacted in Switzerland, was shocked to learn that his house had been sold while he was getting treatment for a minor heart condition. I never authorized any sale, he told reporters via video call. I don't even have a niece named Margaret. The legal battle lasted for 2 years. The Rodriguez family, the Morrison family, and Robert Chen all sued each other, sued the banks that processed the payments, and sued everyone remotely connected to the transaction. In the end, Harold Pemberton decided to actually sell the house and donated the proceeds to charity. This whole experience has shown me that material possessions bring nothing but trouble, he said. I'd rather use this money to help people who truly need it. The three families eventually received partial restitution through their insurance companies, but none of them recovered their full losses. As for Margaret, FBI sources say she's living comfortably in a South American country with no extradition treaty, probably planning her next big scam. Some say she started a legitimate real estate business using her ill-gotten gains as capital. Others believe she's already moved on to bigger and more elaborate cons. The house at 1247 Cypress Manor stands empty again, now known as the Scam House in local newspapers. Real estate agents avoid showing it because potential buyers always ask about the woman who sold it 3 times. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night thinking about this story. Margaret Whitmore wasn't some criminal mastermind with years of training. She was just a desperate woman who looked at an impossible situation and decided to take the most audacious risk imaginable. She studied that house like her life depended on it. She researched her targets, planned every detail, and executed her scam with the precision of a Swiss watch. She turned her greatest weakness, her complete lack of money, into her greatest strength by making people believe she was wealthy enough to own a multi-million-dollar mansion. In a twisted way, Margaret's story is almost inspiring. Not the stealing part, obviously, but the sheer audacity of it all. How many of us walk past opportunities every day because we think we're not qualified enough, not rich enough, not connected enough? Margaret proved that confidence and preparation can take you anywhere. Unfortunately, she also proved that crime doesn't pay in the long run, because eventually someone always notices when the moving trucks start arriving at the same house. The Rodriguez family still drives past 1247 Cypress Manor sometimes. Carlos says it doesn't make him angry anymore, just sad. We really love that house, Elena told me when I interviewed her. For 2 weeks, we thought we had found our forever home. Margaret stole more than our money. She stole our dream. Jennifer Morrison has moved on to other investments, but she admits the experience changed her. I learned to verify everything 3 times now, she says. Margaret taught me an expensive lesson about trust. Robert Chen retired from real estate law shortly after the scandal. If an attorney with 30 years of experience can be fooled that easily, he said, then anyone can be. It made me question everything I thought I knew about people. But maybe the most interesting part of this whole story is what it reveals about all of us. Margaret succeeded because she understood something fundamental about human nature. We all want to believe we're special, that we have access to opportunities others don't. The Rodriguez family thought they were getting a deal because Margaret made them feel chosen. Jennifer Morrison fell for the scam because she believed she deserved exclusive access to the best things in life. Robert Chen was convinced because Margaret made him feel like an insider getting privileged information. Margaret Whitmore might be a criminal, but she was also a master psychologist who understood exactly which buttons to push to make smart, successful people hand over millions of dollars. So the next time someone offers you an opportunity that seems too good to be true, remember the house at 1247 Cypress Manor. Remember that sometimes the most convincing person in the room is the one with the most to gain from your trust. And if you ever find yourself walking through a wealthy neighborhood, admiring houses you could never afford, just remember Margaret's story. Because somewhere out there, she's probably walking through another exclusive neighborhood, studying another beautiful house, and planning her next impossible scam. The house that wasn't hers became the crime of a lifetime, and somewhere in South America, Margaret Whitmore is probably laughing all the way to the bank. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel, like, share, and subscribe. Please write a comment what you think about this video.